Good evening, everyone. Tonight we'll talk about youth empowerment in climate action and our climate promises. So don't forget to share this to your friends on Facebook and Twitter. And you can check us out on Quarantalk Media Facebook page and 2030 Youth Force in the Philippines Facebook page. Can share, like, and comment. But before we go on all of that discussion about climate change and climate action, let's check our COVID-19 updates for today. So for the COVID-19 updates in the Philippines for today, February 5, 2021, our total active cases is 34,255. So the total cases now went up to 533,587 with additional of 1,894 cases today. The total deaths is 11,058 with additional 61 deaths today, and total recoveries of 488,274 with total 397 recoveries for today. So don't forget social distancing and your hygiene every day. If you don't need to go out, don't go out of your house. And if it's necessary to go out, if you're going to the market, don't forget to wear your face mask or face shields. Yeah. And since we're going to talk about climate action and youth empowerment tonight, we'll welcome you to this episode of SDG Online Tambayan. Magandang gabi sa inyo lahat. Welcome sa isa na namang episode ng SDG Online Tambayan.
Ito ang kulitan at kwentuhan na pinag-uusapan ang Sustainable Development Goals. Ang SDG Online Tambayan ay inihahandog ng 2030 Youth Force in the Philippines Incorporated at Quarantalk Media.
Hello,
Hi,
Kai.
Raz.
Hello. So, we're speaking in English because we have an audience in the Asia-Pacific, not just in the Philippines tonight, right?
Yes, actually, yes. This episode is very special since we are really changing the whole feel of this episode to cater to our audiences in the Asia Pacific.
So if you're watching this episode of SDG Online Tambayan, just comment down your thoughts on this episode, share, and like on our social media pages. So, Kai, how are you for this week?
Yes, I'm actually very tired today. I slept a while ago before we started this episode to gain more energy. How about you? What did you do
Yeah,
this week?
me too. I took a nap before the episode started because it was a long day for me. So let's let's go to our segment
Yes.
for tonight, and let's talk about our climate promises on our SDG Ask.
Yeah, so our SDG asks for tonight is really very interesting and connected to the topic we will be discussing tonight. So what's our SDG asks, Ran?
Our SDG Ask is, what is your climate promise? Let's share it in the screen right now. So, what is your
Yes.
promise for our climate? So, recently, last month, we talked about zero waste. Basically,
Yeah.
we did our climate promise in there. What do you remember your climate promise when we ended the
Yes.
episode?
Yes, actually, my climate promise was to switch to using shampoo and conditioner bars to lessen the waste produced from my toiletries. Do
Yeah,
you remember your promise from that episode?
mine was to collect all plastic wastes from junk foods and all of the waste that I'm consuming. Instead of throwing it in the trash, I'll recycle it and
Mhm.
repurpose it after this year. So that's my climate promise. Let's check other climate promises in the comment section.
Yes. So first we have Avril Pascual. She was actually with us in that episode, right? So she said that she will lessen her Lazada and Shopee purchases.
Lesson my Lazada and Shopee. I would love that too.
Yes.
It would help me with saving money as well. Lessen Lazada and Shopee purchases.
Mm-hmm.
So let Brex Arevalo said to continue advocating for climate action even when the going gets tough.
Yes, actually that's true. And here another comment from Jed Yabot. Climate literacy para sa lahat. Dahil walang pinipili ang mga kalamidad, pero lagit laging maliliit na tao ang napupuruhan. Yes, actually, Jed was able to express that really well in Tagalog. But for the sake of our audiences tonight, uh, Jed really wants to enhance climate literacy in the Philippines since calamities strike and it's the people who are really affected in these calamities, right?
That's true. One person also commented, I promise to continue advocate in encouraging community not to cut trees.
Mm, yes, super helpful, especially previously who mentioned there are a lot of calamities, especially here in the Philippines, and that would be a great help to lessen the floods.
Correct.
Yeah, so from Edmond Jimenez Turalde, may ipapangako ko lang na muna mismo ako gagawa ng pagbabago na hindi na kung saan-saan magtatapon ng basura, maliit man o malaki, dahil sa pamamagitan nito, malaki ang maitutulong natin sa ating climate. And dito rin magsisimula ang pagiging, yes, it was
The
cut off.
characters are limited, Kai. The characters are limited.
Yes, yes. But basically, Edmond wants us to tell our viewers here that he wants to start small and start with himself by not throwing his trash anywhere, whether it be big or small.
Correct. And last, not last, Princess Jev Alumbro said, I will promise to continue teaching little kids in my neighborhood how to throw their garbage on the right place and start loving plants. So that's quite a small thing if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Starting at a young age to throw
Yes.
garbage in the right place, but if it become a habit, so
Mm-hmm.
it's a good thing that you're starting at a young age throwing garbage in the right place. And
Yes.
lastly,
And
Kai,
yes, lastly, here from Aniela Gabriel Bautista. Start using eco-friendly products. Yes, same. We have the same promise actually. And I really think that it's really a good start.
yes,
Actually, there's one more comment from Francia Andrea. Yes, my climate promise is to reach out to my community about climate mitigation.
that's correct. Also, Francia Andrea Abe, who commented this, started a business that's for zero waste. See, Francia, we're
Yes.
shouting you out still. So um, that's one good way to have an impact in the community. She
Mhm.
started a business about zero waste and about zero food waste. So that's one impactful thing that she's doing in this community. So if you're watching this, comment down below your climate promise as well and share this to your friends. So, Kai, are you
Yeah.
excited to our discussion for tonight?
Yes, of course. I'm really excited to know more about the climate state of the Asia Pacific and especially here in the Philippines and things we can do about it.
Yes, I'm also excited to talk about because there's an upcoming event
Mm-hmm.
about the regional dialogue on youth empowerment, and we'll talk more about this on our next segment, Zoom In. So that's it. but but in order for us to talk more about and discuss more about the regional dialogue on youth empowerment on climate actions, let's call on together with us tonight the youth empowerment consultant of the Bangkok Regional Hub, UNDP Asia-Pacific, Jules Giang.
Hi everyone. Hello. Hi Rans. Hi Kai. Thanks for having me.
Hi.
Hello, Jules. How are you, Jules?
I'm good. I'm really excited for this show tonight and of course for the event next week. I'm quite excited and nervous at the same time. But thanks for having me.
So we'll talk more about the regional
Mm-hmm.
dialogue. But why is it important to talk about climate action before all of that? Uh, in the context of the Philippines and the Asia Pacific in general, why do we need to talk about the climate change and climate action?
Yeah, for sure. From the very beginning in our curriculum, we all know that climate change is really happening. The science tells us that it is happening since time immemorial for over a century. I mean, the heat that we're experiencing right now, it all boils down because of the industrial revolution, which started almost a century ago. So imagine the effect of our behaviors right now in the future. So think about the long term. And we're talking about climate action. It's very important, especially that this is a show about the SDGs, right? The Sustainable Development Goals. On SDG 13, climate action, it encourages everyone, not only the youth sector, but everyone, linking it to SDG 17, partnerships for the global goals, because it is an intergenerational issue. It affects everyone. It affects not only all people in the present, but also people in the future. So we need to understand that we have our own role to contribute. And as part of the youth sector, like you guys, I mean, we are doing our own part right now. Like even with a simple show like this, it could encourage people to be aware about the issues about climate. And after being aware, of course, it's important for all of you to do something about it, right? So especially right now in the context of a pandemic, we all, I mean, all of our actions are really limited right now. So what else could we do? So we need to maximize what we have right now. For example, the social media, all the webinars. I mean, I understand that there is a fatigue already on Zoom and everything because of your classes, but this is, I think, is also a very crucial discussion that we need to pursue.
Yes, actually, speaking of being aware and doing something about it,
Mhm.
before the regional dialogues, are there any events or pre-events per se before that?
Yeah. So this regional dialogue will happen next week, Feb 9 to 10, and this will cater to climate activists all over the Asia Pacific and even beyond Asia Pacific. But before that, we also have pre-events. We have partnered with several organizations, youth organizations like Young Go. It's based in they have their focals in Europe and here in Asia. We have Movers. This was created by UNDP Asia Pacific as well, and of course 2030 Youth Force Asia Pacific. We are also implementing a pre-event tomorrow, Saturday at 6 p.m. So if ever you're
Mhm.
interested, so just go to the 2030 Youth Force page.
So I'm excited to know more about the regional dialogue because as you said, or as you mentioned earlier, we've gone through a lot of webinars, we've gone through a lot of classes.
Mm-hmm.
but it's refreshing that this kind of event is a dialogue. So
Yeah.
what makes it different from all the other webinars first?
Well, since it's an intersectoral dialogue, so expect that, well, most of the delegates are coming from the youth sector, but we also invited several representatives from governments across Asia Pacific. We have representatives from the private sector, from civil society, from media. So expect that this is
Mm.
a mix of ideas and perspectives coming from their own fields, and it's a very interesting mix of speakers because we have invited speakers from different continents, from North America, from Europe. So basically, it's a knowledge exchange of perspectives as regards climate action. Because I think when we're talking about climate discourse, especially that we're coming from Asia Pacific, we need to understand the context of the countries within this region, right? For example,
Mhm.
the Philippines, where we are
Mhm.
residing in, right? We experience at least 20 cyclones or typhoons every year. For how about for the smaller countries in the Pacific area, right? So they are these countries like the Philippines and the Pacific Islands are really vulnerable to the effects of climate change. So more than preparing to the effects of these natural calamities, that is, as science tells us, these cyclones are getting stronger and stronger year per year because of the heat brought about by climate change. So we need to do something about it. So yeah, basically expect various perspectives in this regional dialogue.
One thing
Mhm.
that I like the most is it's a multi-sectoral approach or a dialogue, and it's not in just a context of Asia Pacific. As you mentioned, there's speakers from America and Europe, so there's a variety of context that we can get. And
Yes.
why do you think we need this kind of dialogue? Because for us as an SDG advocate, we're all
Mhm.
aware of the SDGs
Mhm.
and basically the Paris Agreement. If you're hearing the news regarding Paris Agreement, it's jargon for some, but
Right.
it's not for us. So why do we need, or why is it important that we hold this kind of regional dialogue to empower the youth?
Yeah, that's a very good point, Rans. Because that's really true. When we're talking about the climate discourse, we hear so many technical words, we hear jargons, and it's very important for advocates, for youth leaders, basically. They have the responsibility to translate what they know to other people, not only the youth, to make it really basic, really understandable. Because if you'll talk about how to limit the heat, the rising temperature of heat only to 1.5 Celsius degrees Celsius,
Mhm.
how will they understand that, right? So we need to
Mhm.
make our conversations issue based, like talk about the calamities that they experience year per year, and make them understand that these aren't just really because of natural phenomenon. As we call it in the climate discourse, we talk about human induced activities, or the
Mhm.
anthropogenic activities, right? Meaning people like us have a contribution on why there is climate change. So we need to accept this fact. There should be accountability from the start, right, from our end. And after accepting that, what should you do next,
Mhm.
right? You need to make people aware, and you need to make them move and act about it.
Yes, actually, it's really interesting to hear from everything you've said that it's a multi-sectoral event, and that we are hearing different perspectives from different people, not only the youth but also experts. So, as youth, if we join this dialogue, what's in it for us? What do we have to prepare? Do we have to be that knowledgeable to be able to participate in this kind of discussions?
Yeah. Well, actually, we do not expect everyone to have the same level of knowledge immediately about climate discourse. So we expect participants. I mean, for an added information, we designed this program for only 150 delegates, and right now we have
Mhm.
2,300 people who registered across the region. So it's really overwhelming.
Wow.
And yeah, it's really overwhelming. So we're really happy about that. And yeah, so basically we're expecting people and youth leaders who are doing their thing, their advocacies in their own communities, and at the same time, other youth members who are just interested to know more about the climate discourse. So we'll make sure that our speakers will try to speak less on a technical note and make it appear more laymanized or very basic.
That's correct. So, because we need to, just like as you said, we need to have the conversation issue based. So,
Mhm.
and laymanized as well. But after this event, what's in it for them? If I am a participant of this regional dialogue,
Mhm.
what am I expecting? And after this event, what would be expected out of me?
Right. That's a thing about organizing events like these. Right. I mean, you guys, you organize several events every quarter, and it's very important to note that we're not only doing events just for the sake of doing one. It's
Yes.
important to have a way forward after. So for this particular event, for the regional dialogue on youth empowerment and climate action, what we're doing on day two, because it's a 2-day event. On
Mm.
day two,
Mhm.
we're launching the Youth Empowerment and Climate Actions platform. So it's basically a platform, an online platform of all our co-conveners, because our co-conveners here are, of course, UNDP, you have UNICEF, you have British Council, you have Movers, you have Youngo, and you have 2030 Youth Force. So this platform, or what we call the YECAP, or the once again the Youth Empowerment and Climate Actions
Mhm.
platform, it will be, we hope, we aspire to make this platform as a go-to of all youth activists to gather opportunities and share their knowledge about what they know about the climate climate justice or the climate action discourse.
Mm. Uh, just one question after that, because that's one thing if I'm a participant of this
Yeah.
event, right? But to the people who's experiencing this climate change, who's not available during the February 9 and 10, because
Mhm.
we're talking in the point of we're privileged enough to have this
Mhm.
internet
Right,
connection,
right.
we have this Zoom application and all of that. But
Mhm.
how do we go beyond this, especially during this pandemic in the
Yeah.
Philippine context? But aside from the Philippines, I saw Vietnam, the 2030 Youth Force of Vietnam already had an on-ground event. But
Mhm.
aside from that, what what steps do we need to take
Mhm.
beyond these virtual platforms in order for us to communicate and possibly emulate this regional dialogue about climate justice?
Right. That's another important question because, like in the SDGs, our battle cry is to leave no one behind, right?
Mhm.
And definitely in this discourse, you also aspire to leave no one behind. Unfortunately, right now, we have limitations because in many countries across the globe, we have limited mobility because of the pandemic. And fortunately, we have several co-convening partners. As mentioned earlier, we have Movers, Youngo, we have 2030 Youth Force. So it is, I think it's incumbent among these organizations to think about how they can cascade the messages from this regional dialogue to their communities. I
Mhm.
mean, in any event, you can
Mhm.
only do so much, right? You need to accept that from the very beginning that you cannot solve all the problems of the world in just one event.
Mhm.
So what's important is you are amplifying or you're jump starting the discussions and making people realize through compelling stories and talks that they need to act on this. And what's important is we need to contextualize again in our timelines already 2021. So we are
Mhm.
9 years to go before the deadline of the 2030 global goals deadline. So yeah, we do not have the luxury of time. So we need to keep on pushing, right? We need
Mhm.
to talk about these things. So yeah, I think SDG 17, it's all about partnerships. I mean, it's this regional dialogue. We're inviting governments, private sector, and of course the youth sector. They need to collaborate. Governments need to provide platform for the youth sector that despite the pandemic, it's a health issue. Despite focusing on that particular matter, governments should also provide platforms for the youth to be part not only of the discussion but as well as their actions.
Mhm. Yes, actually, I agree with that. It's how we learn from these kinds of webinars, as we are the privileged ones who are able to access different resources, right? But as part of organizations, we must translate it
Mhm.
into actions and be able to act on our events as a way forward.
Um,
So, Rans,
I'll take
yes.
this opportunity to ask Jules
Yeah.
regarding in the context of the Philippines, because our SDG 13 ambassador of the 2030 Youth Force in the Philippines mentioned that last February 3, the Philippine government has conducted its second multi-stakeholder consultation on the Philippine National Determined Contribution. So that's quite a jargon for all of us as well,
Mhm.
because NDC is part of our commitment to report
Yeah.
on the Paris Agreement. So in this latest draft of our NDC, the Philippines will commit to reduce up to 75% of its greenhouse gas emissions as compared
Mhm.
to the business as usual scenario for this decade.
Yeah.
So, what's your comment on this? And I'll connect this to your climate promise. What's your
Yeah.
comment on this? On how, in our context in the Philippines, how do you think we need to, or in order for us to fulfill this commitment, what are the simple steps, or what are the
Mhm.
steps that we need to take? And for you, what would be your climate promise as well?
Right. Well, for your first point, Rans, that's actually the main point of Climate Promise. So, Climate Promise is this relatively new program of UNDP. It basically aims to help countries to help them um, respond to climate change in their countries because in my point of view, not of UNDP's, okay, in my point of view, because my thesis way back in the undergrad several years ago, it focused on the Kyoto Protocol and how
Mm,
basically about climate change. So unfortunately, not all countries have the capacity, the resources
Mhm.
to deal with climate change. They would rather deal with other issues, right? Like
poverty.
poverty, yeah, health issues like the pandemic, among others. So fortunately, UNDP has this climate promise. It basically aims to assist countries to help them meet their targets as regards climate action. So that's the beauty of climate promise. Now, in the Philippines, my point of view there, to be fair to the Philippine government, since
Mhm.
many administrations before up until now, the executive is pretty much serious in dealing with climate change. The thing is, it's really technical, but
Yeah.
the role of the civil society is there to to fill in the gaps, to make people understand why we need to contribute, not really contribute, to lessen our emissions in the bigger picture. But we also need to understand that the Philippines overall emits less than 1% of global of
Mhm.
greenhouse
Correct.
gases. So the burden is still with the bigger countries, right? So to me, one of the beauty of this regional dialogue is to amplify the voices, especially of those people living in vulnerable countries like the Philippines and the Pacific Islands, right? Because these countries, our countries, are severely affected year per year. And what do we do every year? We just cope with it, right? We just
Yes.
prepare that there's a typhoon coming. But in the long run, is it sustainable? Aren't we tired of doing these
Mhm.
things year per year? So I think while preparing for these annual calamities, what we need to do is to push back, right? To send a unifying message that, hey, big countries, you need to do something. You need to cut your emissions. You need to lower that, because what you're doing, you're doing those activities for the benefit of your countries, but you also need to understand that your activities are also affecting several countries across the globe. So yeah, it's basically an international issue, right? It
Mhm.
affects all countries. So that's one of the clear messages that we need to build on starting from now. Now, my climate promise, well, I only have less than 4 months before my last year in the youth sectors. I'm turning 30. At least in the context of youth in the Philippines. So I'm committing, of course, my skills and my time to mobilize, to organize more initiatives. I mean, it's funny, like 4 years ago, we were just starting 2030 Youth Force in Asia Pacific. And 4 years after, I'm now working with the UNDP Asia Pacific. So I'm envisioning to create more platforms where we could invite more youth to join us, right, and to gain more opportunities even in the future. So yeah, basically that I'll be sharing more of my time and my skills for more specific. Yeah, that's my goal, to more specific issues as regards the SDGs.
I like what you said, that this is a discussion or an issue wherein all countries should be involved. It's
Mm-hmm.
an international issue because in order for us to achieve or to act on climate change, it's not enough that our commitment as a country is achieved. However, all other countries
Mhm.
are not, right?
Yeah.
So, in order for us to achieve such impact or to contribute, in order for us to act on climate, we need to possibly, yes, call out all those bigger countries, all those bigger companies that emits uh, greenhouse gases or other other harmful effects on the environment as well.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
Kai,
Yes. Actually, no, actually, I agree with what you both said, that it's time that we hold these bigger countries accountable, because this is not just a national issue but an international one. And like what Kuya Joel said a while ago, there's I mean, we can only do so much in
Yeah.
our country, and it's really a bigger call to hold these bigger countries accountable of their greenhouse emissions and to reduce their own carbon footprint. So maybe you would like to invite everyone to join the regional dialogue on youth empowerment and climate action.
Yeah, actually, can I share my screen? I'll share my screen so you guys um here we go.
Yes.
Where is it? Here. So if you're interested to join our dialogue next week, so please visit youthAPAC.org/climate. Can you guys show this? Rans.
yes,
There's the link. Can you place it in the banner? Okay, so that's the link. So this is the website. So here's a quick context about climate change. So that's a very quick contextualization, and you can still register.
Mm-hmm.
Supposedly we should have closed the registration a week ago, but since we have a demand from people to join even outside Asia Pacific, so go ahead. You can still register. Actually, I'm on a break right now. I'm sending the logistic notes to all the delegates right now. So imagine sending to more than 2,000 people. But I mean, yeah, I think this is a very interesting dialogue come next week. So you just need to register here. You have the link here, and you can download the event concept note. And yeah, so that's happening on 9th to 10th next week, and it's open to everyone. So far, most participants, the top 5 participants, if I'm not mistaken, comes from China with about 1,000
mm,
delegates already. And
Oh.
then the
wow,
next one is Philippines with more
Mm-hmm.
than 200 delegates. We have India, we have Indonesia, we have Bangladesh. Those are the top 5 countries
Wow.
with most registrants for this event. So please keep on registering, and we're not closing the portal anymore. So yeah, see you on Tuesday next week.
Yes, I'm excited to hear about all those regional dialogue events on February 9 and 10. But before we end, Kuya Jules, what would be your parting message since you mentioned earlier that in 4 months in Philippine context, you're not part of the youth anymore. So what would be your possibly message to the youth in order for us to possibly achieve sustainable development goals and to have a sustainable lifestyle?
Yeah, well, the SDGs basically is a set of, as I usually explain it, is a set of dreams, right? It's a set of dreams for the world, for
Mhm.
your country, for your community, for yourself. And even if you're leaving the community, like the youth sector, like from my end, it doesn't end there, right? It's an intergenerational issue. So whether you're not part of the youth sector anymore, all the more that you need to contribute in another
Mhm.
level, right? Whether you're a young professional, whether you're working any sector, if you have the capacity, if you have the compelling confidence to um, convince your friends, your supervisors, or where you're working to align your work with the SDGs, why not?
Mhm.
Right? That's a very good contribution already. Even a small contribution or a big contribution, that will truly be helpful in the bigger picture. So yeah, thanks Rance and thanks Kai for having me.
Thank you, Jules,
Thank you.
for I hope everyone who's watching will join the regional dialogue on February 9 and 10. So thank you, Jules, again for joining us
Thank you.
this episode of SDG Online Tambay. Kai, uh,
Yes.
what's your take for this episode? We've done this a lot of times, but this would be possibly our first time to have a discussion on what's our take on our episode tonight for the longest time.
Yes, actually, it's really interesting that even if we talked about this topic already for so many, many times in this series of SDG Online Tambayan, every time we go on and talk about this, I learn more and more.
Mhm.
And I really think that the more we talk about climate change, climate action, um, it's really a way for everyone to learn more and that realize that learning does not stop.
Yeah.
And every time we learn something, we have to do something about it and translate it into actions by doing initiatives, right? By joining these kinds of dialogues, webinars. You, Rans, what's your take on our episode?
Actually, this is proof on what we said on our episode on zero waste that there's a lot of things to discuss
Mm-hmm.
on our take on climate action. There's a lot of topics to be checked, and a lot of people need still to be educated because ever since I'm in high school, elementary, we're talking about global warming and climate change.
Mm-hmm.
However, not a lot of people still believes on what's happening, right? So
Yes.
there's still a group of people saying that climate change is a hoax, that it's just part of the process of the
Yes.
earth. So in order for us to relay more and to possibly educate more people, we need to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
We need to normalize talking about these changes that's happening in our planet in order for us to lessen our impact and in order for us to improve and have a sustainable way of life moving forward. So,
Yes.
Kai, more discussions about this can be seen on our social media pages. Where can they find us?
Yes, of course. You may follow us on our Facebook page at fb.com/youthforceph. And we are also on Twitter and Instagram. Just follow us at youthforceph. We also have our a Spotify account at 2030 Youth Force in the Philippines Incorporated for our Humans for SDGs podcast. And lastly, to be a member of the Force here in the Philippines, just sign up at bit.ly/YFPH membership. And also, don't forget to join our regional dialogue on youth empowerment and climate actions. Just go to www.youthepac.org/climate. Yes.
Yes, we can't wait to have you this February 9 and 10 to be there in the regional dialogue on youth
Mhm.
empowerment and climate actions. Don't forget to check also all Quarantalk Media shows for this one. Every Monday 9 p.m. it's Quarantalk with Jules Giang and A. Antonio. Tuesday, the main agenda with Ate Jermaine Derunya. Wednesday 9 p.m. QT Earth with Sir Rodney Galicia. Thursday, 9 p.m., Throwback Kasaysayan. And 10:30 p.m., Inuman with Thais and Raf.
Yes, and on Fridays, we have at 7 p.m. Kilos Kabataan with Jules Guiang. And at 9 p.m., our most awaited episode in Current Talk Media, yes, the SDG Online Tambayan with us, the 2030 Youth Force in the Philippines Incorporated. And during Saturdays, we have at 9 p.m. Radyo Comelec with Comelec. And lastly, on Sundays, we have Catholic Mass live streaming at 10 a.m. and 4 p.m.
Yes. And don't forget to check us out next week again. We'll talk about the Philippine Development Youth Congress, the
Yes.
PDYC 2021 next episode, and continue to talk about and discuss about climate action and climate justice. Don't forget to input it everywhere or anywhere you can so that you can keep the conversation rolling. Kai,
Yes. Yes.
so
So,
did you enjoy this episode, Kai?
yes, actually, it's really hard to keep keep the conversation going like this. But I really enjoyed our episode tonight.
Yes. Thank you for watching us. And this has been your SDG Online Tambayan.
Bye. See you next week.